welcome back to Mums on a Mission. I am your host, Julie Hatch, and you are listening to the fourth episode of this parenting podcast called Mums on a Mission. I'm really glad you're here today. Today, I'm going to be finishing up about the element types and how they relate to parenting and the kids' behavior. And today, I'm going to be talking about water type. And I'm going to be pulling this information all together, and I'm going to finish up at the end with a little tip about something that all kids need all the time. So I'm glad you're here. So water element type is where I'm going to start today. We've talked about wood and fire and earth and metal. Wood and fire being yang, metal being a little bit yin, and now water is very yin. And yin, if you're at all familiar with yang and yin, yin is really opposite from yang. Yin just means it's like the female aspect to life. It's the yin is dark and quiet. It's the nighttime. It's the moon rather than the sun. It's the nighttime rather than the daytime. It's quiet. It's sort of more introverted rather than being out there, wild and loud like the wood and the fire elements are. So water is the most yin of all of the element types, which makes them rather mysterious and really very interesting. Water element is, the nickname is the philosopher, because water children or water people are really deep thinkers. They are deep thinkers. They're philosophers, and they like to go deep in their thinking, and they like to be alone and given the opportunity to think, to dream, to daydream. So they like their time alone. They are quite creative and imaginative, very imaginative. They like to live in their own heads, creating their own stories, their own worlds in their head. And so to help bring out their creativity is a great thing for a water child to experience. They're artistic a lot of the time in one way or another, not necessarily painting or drawing, but whether it's music or cooking or other ways or writing, other ways to express their creativity is really good for water children because it's part of them to be able to create and bring out their imagination. They're pretty easygoing, as water is just kind of flows and goes with the flow. So do water children. They are easygoing. They don't make any waves. They go with the flow. One caveat to that, though, is that they're on their own time clock. They march to the beat of their own drum, and they do not like being confined to a schedule and to being somewhere on time. They are not the kids that are going to be the first ones in the car in the morning ready to go to school. Not at all. They are on their own time frame. Maybe they will be if that works out with their own internal time clock, but if not, then there's no rushing them. They march to the beat of their own drum. Yes, they go with the flow, but not if it's a hurried, rushed, push, push, push kind of a flow. They're very quiet. They are not big talkers. They do not need lots of friends. They really only need one or two good friends because they really don't need a whole lot of people in their life. In fact, they don't like a whole lot of people in their life. They're a little more introverted and a little bit more of loners. And I don't mean loner in a bad way. They just like their time alone. So they're not going to be out being gregarious and interacting at the big birthday party or something like that. They really like their time quietly and alone and with one or two friends. It's not that they're antisocial so much. They just want their sociability to be who they want in a very limited amount. They're innovative, again, because of their creativity. They can come up with all kinds of ideas and solutions, and they think outside the box pretty well because they've got this imagination and this ability to think deeply and think creatively and imaginatively. They're dreamers. They will be the ones staring out the window at school if they're not interested in the topic, daydreaming, creating whatever the heck they're creating in their heads. I'm sure very interesting, especially to them. But they're deep daydreamers. They don't tap into what's happening in reality quite so easily. They like being in their own world. They don't like being in the spotlight, obviously. They are quiet and contemplative, so they like to, like I say, think. They are not going to be outwardly active and outwardly speaking and looking for attention. Quite the opposite. They are within. And it seems like sometimes they're living in their own world. Like you just can't bring them back into reality because they just love their creativity and their world that they're living in. They are the philosopher. The emotion that comes out in water type children is fear and anxiety, but especially fear. The water element is associated primarily with fear. Whatever they're fearful about, fear is something that's likely to come out in them if they are responding to some kind of a trigger or a stressor. So the triggers are sociability and being told that they're supposed to go out and socialize and be around a whole lot of people. That triggers them, and that does not make them feel good at all. In fact, it makes them feel really uncomfortable and perhaps even fearful because it is not part of their true nature to be around a whole lot of people. So that's a trigger that's going to bring out some kind of behavior, whether it's fearful or something else. And they don't like to be rushed. As I had said earlier, they do not like being on a schedule. They don't like, which, of course, sometimes they have to be on a schedule. They have to, but just be aware that sometimes if you have a water child, they're going to be the ones that you need to start working on first to get them up and out of bed and ready to go to school because they're likely to be on their own timeline, their own clock. But you can make a creative or imaginative game out of it. There are ways to work with them by using their motivators to get them so that they do get to the car on time or to the appointment on time or to wherever on time. Help them get into some kind of, if they have to follow a schedule, use some kind of creativity or creative play to make that happen. So their motivators, what they really do like is time to themselves. And if you don't allow them a place and time to themselves to think or draw or whatever they want to do, that's not gonna feel good to them. They really need that time, and it'll just help bring out great things in them if they have that time to be alone. They need the opportunity to be creative, and they don't. So you don't want to be forcing them to be sociable a whole lot of time, but give them plenty of time to be by themselves and creating. And time, giving them all kinds of time without rushing them is a great motivator for them. They love that. So that is the water child. And so I want to go on and talk about other element types in the family and dynamics between people and different element types. I think I had said before that, well, a couple of things. One is that you have one situation, like bullies on a playground, and you got 3 different kids, 3 different element types. They're going to react 3 different ways. That's just the nature of the beast. And so likewise, parenting is not a one size fits all. Especially if you have more than one child, you know that your children are all really different, and that what works for one is not going to work for the next one or all of them. So you have to tailor your parenting for depending on which child you are dealing with, which is why it's helpful to know about element type. Why allowing one child to go out and run around and be active and and play in the neighborhood is not going to work for the water child. They don't want that, and so they need something different from you. They just need something different from you. They need their time and their space alone. That's not difficult, actually. So within the family, depending on what the parents or sibling element types there are going on, you're going to have different family dynamics. For instance, in a family that I worked with, the mother was very fire. She was very sociable. She loved going out and seeing her friends and having lunch dates, and she had her job. She was just a really person-oriented person, people-oriented. So she was very fire. She was upbeat and talkative and really fun. And her daughter was a water type who was really artistic. She didn't give herself enough credit, but she was very artistic. She was in 8th grade, I believe, when I was working with them, and she was a water type. She had to have her time alone. Luckily, she was an only child, so that helped. She didn't have other siblings to have to contend with. But her mother, so there was an episode where her mother wanted her to go to the school dance. Her mother, who loved school dances and loved going out and socializing, thought that it would be good for her daughter to do that. In fact, she had concern that her daughter was perhaps getting depressed because she liked to be alone so much, and didn't go out and want to socialize with people. And her mother, being a fire, couldn't understand that. She thought that there was something wrong, that she didn't want to go out and socialize a whole lot. She only had 2, maybe 3 really good friends, but she did have some good friends. So the mother convinced the daughter. The daughter wanted to appease her mother, and so she decided to go to the school dance. And as soon as she got out of the car, she just knew that this was just not right. She did not want to go to the school dance, but she would do it to make her mother happy. And so she went, and the night turned into a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. There was drinking going on. There were girls and guys. There was having to find a ride home. It just brought her to tears, and it was miserable for her. And it was all because her fire mother didn't understand that she just didn't want to go out and socialize and be a part of the party situation. So it would have helped if her mother had stopped to think about, well, Nancy doesn't really want to do this, and that's because it's part of her inner nature, her element type, to not go out and be social, and so it's fine. It's okay if she doesn't go to the school dance. But anyhow, so that was a learning experience for both of them. Likewise, if you have 2 similar types of element types, it can go either way. It could be, for instance, 2 fire type could get along really well because they understand each other because they both have similar element types. Or it could be that they butt heads and that they compete to be the center of attention, and that they are vying for to be in the limelight. And so there may be a strong competition there, or they may complement each other really well. It's hard to know. Wood type siblings can do great together. If they like to do sports together, it's a great way to bond and be together, and either parent and child or siblings. If they're both wood type, it can be a benefit to have them be the same type, because they like to do the same stuff, and they can find, like I say, they can bond and find commonality in physical activities. Or they can they end up being really competitive, and they try to outcompete each other, and that can make things difficult. So it can go either way. If they have similar element types, they can complement each other nicely, or they can butt heads and make things worse. There are ways, so each different element type has a type that nourishes them, that makes them more of who they are, and there are ones that sedate them and calm them down. For instance, if you have a fire child, a water child or a water parent's influence will help calm down when the fire child gets manic or out of control, or super, like I say, manic. So a fire influence can sedate that. A water influence can sedate that fire. So anyways, it gets complicated, but there are ways to work with different element types to bring out the best and not bring out or sedate the worst, to not let the worst happen. So the one last thing that I want to talk about is the one thing that all kids need all the time, and it's actually one of the best things that you can do as a parent, and that is to consciously connect with your kid. And my business and this podcast, Moms on a Mission, the tagline is consciously connecting with our kids. And if we all took the time, a little bit of time every day, to consciously connect with our kids, it would do wonders. It's not easy because everyone's on such crazy schedules, and having the time to really sit and be present and not be distracted is a challenge, but it is well worth it, because kids need to be heard. They need to know that they are important, that they're worthy of your time and your attention. And it's not difficult. It's just taking the time and being aware of it and making it happen. So conscious connection with your kids. being present, being consciously present. So mindfulness, or being consciously present, is being paying attention on purpose without judgment. So paying attention is taking the time, putting your phone down, closing the laptop, turning off all distractions, and just sitting and being with your child. So that is being present. On purpose is that you make time to do this. Sometimes it can happen spontaneously, and that's great, as long as you realize that the opportunity is coming up. You close your phone and you just pay attention to them, and without judgment. And if you can take some time to be with your child and let them say what they want to say, or voice what they have, or act out the frustration or whatever they have going on, and don't jump to trying to correct it or fix it or saying no or any of that. No judgment. Just be there with them and allow it to be. So a few minutes, a couple times a day, consciously connecting with your kid is just really listening to them. Part of it also is understanding their element type. So once you understand their element type, you kind of understand a little bit more about where what they're saying is coming from or what they're doing is coming from, and you can honor that, not judge it, not try to make it go away, not deny it, not say no, that don't do that, or you that's not what you're supposed to be like, but honoring it. And then I will be talking about what you do when the difficult behaviors come up and they do have to be contended with. But first and foremost is taking some time to consciously connect with your kid. Just sit with them, be with them, let them know, or not. Or if they want to go out and throw a ball or whatever, not all kids want to sit there and talk to you. Maybe they want to go for a jog or go to the beach or go hiking or whatever it is that they want to do. But being with them in the moment without your agenda and without your distractions, whatever it is that they choose to do. I don't mean to say that they want to sit there and talk with you, but to be with them in their space doing what they want. And that's honoring them as who they are, which is a gift to all kids. Our time is a gift to kids. It sounds ridiculous, but the time that we give to our kids, and especially if we are present with them, not judging them, and making a point of making it happen every single day. So that's it. Have fun with your kids too. That is another thing, is that it's not all serious work. In fact, we make it all more serious than we should. We want to make sure that we have fun with our kids, lighten up, and enjoy our kids. So that is it for today, my friends. Thank you for listening. Please, if you are watching on Apple, if you could leave a rating or a review, that would be really helpful. Share with friends, connect with me on Instagram or Facebook, and I will see you next time.